Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Tonight, we are witnessing a moment that many believed would never arrive. A moment that reshapes assumptions, redraws red lines, and forces the world to confront a terrifying question. Has the war crossed into a new and irreversible phase? Reports of explosions rocking areas connected to Moscow, whether on the outskirts, in surrounding regions, or along strategic infrastructure, have sent shockwaves far beyond Russia's borders. Sirens, air defenses, intercepted drones, fires, and fragments falling from the sky are no longer images reserved only for Ukrainian cities. The psychological center of gravity of this war is shifting, and with it, the meaning of safety, distance, and escalation. This is not just about blasts or smoke. This is about what it means when the war comes closer to the heart of a nuclear-armed state. It is about deterrence being tested, narratives being rewritten, and power being challenged in ways that once seemed unthinkable. Tonight, we will break down what these strikes represent, why they matter far beyond the immediate damage, how both sides are framing the moment, and what this could mean for the future of the conflict and for global security itself. For nearly 2 years, the war has followed a brutal and tragic pattern. Ukrainian cities absorbed relentless missile and drone attacks. Power stations went dark. Apartment buildings collapsed. Families fled or hid in basements, while air raid sirens became a daily soundtrack. Russia projected the image of a war that could be waged at a distance, keeping its own population largely insulated from the consequences. That insulation is now cracking. Even limited strikes near Moscow carry an outsized symbolic weight. Moscow is not just a city. It is the political nerve center, the command hub, the seat of power, and the symbol of Russian state authority. When explosions echo anywhere close to it, the message is clear. Geography is no longer a guarantee of safety. This is the psychological battlefield, and Ukraine understands it well. For Ukraine, striking deep, or appearing capable of striking deep, is not about terror for terror's sake. It is about signaling resilience, capability, and resolve. It says, we are not only surviving, we are adapting, we are learning, and we are reaching further than before. In modern warfare, perception often matters as much as destruction. A single drone intercepted near Moscow can shake confidence more than dozens destroyed on the front line. Why? Because it challenges assumptions. Because it forces uncomfortable questions inside Russia itself. If defenses can be tested here, where else can they be tested? The Russian response, as expected, has been swift and loud. Officials emphasize successful interceptions, minimized damage, and controlled situations. State media frames the attacks as provocations, terrorism, or reckless escalation backed by foreign powers. But beneath the official messaging lies a deeper anxiety. Air defense systems redeployed to protect Moscow mean fewer systems elsewhere. Heightened security means economic disruption, civilian unease, and political pressure. Even if the physical damage is limited, the strategic cost is real. Wars are not only fought with missiles and drones. They are fought with confidence, morale, and belief in leadership. When ordinary citizens see smoke near their capital, when flights are delayed, when roads close, when rumors spread faster than official statements, something changes. The war feels closer, more personal, less distant, and that matters. Let's be clear about something crucial. These strikes do not mean Ukraine suddenly has unlimited reach or overwhelming firepower. This is not a sign of imminent collapse in Moscow, but it is a sign of evolution. Ukraine has spent months refining asymmetric strategies, drones, long-range systems, intelligence coordination, and timing have become central tools. Instead of matching Russia missile for missile, Ukraine has focused on making each move count symbolically and strategically. One successful penetration of airspace can force a re-evaluation of defenses. One fire at a strategic site can expose vulnerabilities. One night of tension can ripple through markets, politics, and alliances. This is warfare in the 21st century, precision mixed with perception, technology mixed with psychology. Internationally, reactions are cautious but intense. Allies walk a delicate line. On one hand, Ukraine's right to self-defense is widely acknowledged. On the other, escalation near a capital like Moscow raises fears of miscalculation. The unspoken concern is not just retaliation, it is overreaction. History shows us that wars often spiral not because of planned escalation, but because of misread signals. A strike meant to send a message can be interpreted as a declaration of something far larger. A defensive response can become an offensive one overnight. This is why every word from leaders now matters. Every briefing, every phrase like red line, retaliation, or decisive response. The world is watching not only what happens next, but how it is explained. Inside Ukraine, the mood is complex. There is no celebration of destruction for its own sake. There is exhaustion, grief, and determination. For many Ukrainians, seeing Russia feel even a fraction of what Ukraine has endured is not about revenge. It is about recognition. Recognition that this war has consequences for everyone involved. Recognition that distance does not erase responsibility. Recognition that the cost of aggression cannot be exported forever. Yet Ukraine also understands the stakes. Every action carries risk. Every strike must be weighed not only for military impact, but for diplomatic fallout. Kyiv's leadership knows that maintaining international support is as vital as any battlefield gain. This balance between resistance and restraint is one of the defining challenges of this phase of the war. So, what does this moment truly represent? First, it represents a shift in confidence. Ukraine is no longer only reacting. It is shaping the tempo in new ways. Second, it represents a stress test of Russian defenses, not just technologically, but institutionally. Third, it represents a warning to the world that this conflict is not frozen, not predictable, and not safely contained. The idea that the war could remain geographically limited has always been an illusion. Conflicts of this scale and intensity rarely respect borders, capitals, or comfort zones. And now that reality is impossible to ignore, the next phase of the war will likely be defined by three factors. The first is adaptation. Both sides will adjust. Russia will harden defenses, shift resources, and escalate messaging. Ukraine will refine tactics, seeking impact with minimal resources. The second is political pressure. As the war touches closer to home, Russian leadership faces new domestic questions. Ukraine faces international scrutiny. Allies face decisions about support, limits, and long-term strategy. The third is risk management. Avoiding catastrophic escalation becomes harder as stakes rise. Communication channels, official and unofficial, become more important, not less. In moments like this, restraint can be as powerful as action. But restraint must be credible, and credibility often comes from demonstrated capability. That is the paradox at the heart of this moment. Some analysts argue that strikes near Moscow could shorten the war by forcing serious negotiations. Others warn they could harden positions and prolong the conflict. The truth is, History offers examples of both outcomes. Wars end when one side cannot continue, or when both sides decide the cost is too high. Psychological pressure can accelerate that process, or derail it entirely. What we are seeing now is not the end. It is a turning point. Turning points are dangerous because paths diverge sharply from them. For ordinary people watching this unfold, the emotions are heavy: fear, anger, confusion, hope, fatigue. It is easy to get lost in headlines and forget the human cost beneath them. Every explosion represents not just strategy, but lives disrupted. Families worried, workers delayed, children asking questions adults cannot easily answer. This is why clarity matters. This is why sober analysis matters more than sensationalism. Yes, the war has entered a new phase. Yes, the psychological battlefield has expanded. But no, this is not a movie. There are no clean endings, only consequences. As we close tonight, remember this. History is being written not just by generals and presidents, but by moments like these moments that shift perception, challenge assumptions, and force choices. Ukraine, striking closer to Moscow, is not just a tactical development. It is a statement about endurance, adaptation, and the refusal to be confined to a victim's role. Russia's response will shape what comes next. So will the choices of global powers watching from the sidelines, calculating risks, interests, and responsibilities. The war has not ended, but it has undeniably changed. And as this new phase unfolds, one truth stands above all others. The illusion of distance is gone. The battlefield is no longer defined only by maps. It is defined by reach, resolve, and the willingness to confront reality. Stay informed, stay critical, and stay with us as we continue to break down the moments that are shaping the future right now. Because what happens next will not stay there. It will echo far beyond.